Welcome back to another episode of Estate Planning Nightmares and How to Avoid Them. I'm your host, John Braddock, the author of Click Here When I Die, and the founder of My Life and Wishes, the Legacy Vault, an online planning and document storage solution created specifically to make things easier for those you love. Today, we're in for a real treat. I'm joined by someone who's not only transforming the estate planning landscape in North Carolina, but also making serious waves across the country. Paul Yokabitus is a visionary estate planning attorney based in Cary, North Carolina. He's originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Paul found his way to North Carolina during the economic downturn and has since planted some very deep roots in the Triangle region. He's the founder of Cary Estate Planning, a top-rated firm with 4 locations, and I believe at this point, well over 30 team members. And he has also launched PlanWell Legal, Discovery Legal Marketing, and Elite Planner. His firm has been recognized in numerous publications as the best law firm winner for the past several years, and as one of the fastest growing law firms in the country. Paul's also been honored with the Triangle Business Journal's 2024 40 Under 40 Award, recognizing him as a visionary progressing in the legal industry. He's also been named for several consecutive years in a row as Super Lawyer by Super Lawyers, which is a rating service of outstanding lawyers who have attained the highest degree of peer recognition and professional achievement. They select only the top 5% of attorneys in the United States for the list each year. Now, whether you're serving clients directly, coaching law firm owners, or helping attorneys grow their practices, Paul brings a client-first, no-headache approach to every corner of his work. He is a husband, a dad of 2 young boys, and someone who truly understands that peace of mind is what estate planning is all about. So today, we're diving into the lessons he's learned, the mistakes he helps clients avoid, and how his process is helping reshape what families can expect from their estate planning experience. Paul, welcome to the show.
Well, John, thanks so much. I'll have to grab a recording and send that to my mom one day, I think.
It's funny when I first wrote my book, and I hadn't told my mother that I was writing a book and the kind of stuff, and I sent it to her, and her first response was, "I didn't even know you could read."
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks for having me, John. I'm glad we could carve out time to make this happen.
Oh, I am too. It's been a pleasure. I know we've known each other for about 4 years. You utilize our platform within your practice, which we greatly appreciate, and I know it adds value to your clients. So let's get started. Let's start at the beginning, your journey. So you're originally from Grand Rapids. What brought you and your family to North Carolina, and how did you pivot into estate planning?
Yeah, great question. So I'm originally from Michigan. I actually went through undergrad in Michigan, but when I went to undergrad, I was actually the youngest of 3 kids. So when I moved in freshman year to the dorms for college, my mom and stepdad moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. And at the time, my mom was a nurse and my stepdad still is a commercial electrician. And so that kind of promoted the reality where I would, spend some of my breaks, traveling down to Raleigh and seeing my mom and, just sort of getting a feel for the region. And coincidentally, when I was coming out of undergrad, it was kind of a bad time to be trying to find a job in Michigan. And I knew at that point I wanted to go to law school. But one of the things that I was taught through mentors and educators in college was that unless you're going to get into like a top 14 law school that you could kind of write your own, ticket to wherever you want in the United States, you should really go to law school where you want to practice. And so I kind of at that point, I was applying to schools both in Michigan and in North Carolina. I got into schools in both states, and I kind of had to make a decision of where I wanted to actually be for a while, where I wanted to create a life and really grow, the next foreseeable future in my life. And so, and also coincidentally, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, Alex, got into schools in both states too. And so Campbell University School of Law had just recently moved their law school to downtown Raleigh. And it had previously been in a very rural area of North Carolina outside of the Triangle called Bowie's Creek, and never would have been on my radar except for my dad, my commercial electrician stepdad, did the retrofit for the actual law school. And so it used to be a law firm office building in downtown Raleigh, and they retrofitted it to being a classroom building. And so I submitted my application, I got accepted, and then, about a week later, decided to make the move to Raleigh. And my wife went to NC State for her master's. And so the rest, as they say, is history. So I've been here since 2010.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Interesting. So, so you get out of law school
Mhm.
and you decide, all right, I'm going to transition into estate planning, and you've grown Cary Estate Planning into one of the top firms in the state. I mean, most estate planning firms that I see don't have a team of 30, 40 people. They
Right.
send up being solopreneurs or a couple of paralegals, maybe an assistant or associate attorney. So what would you say has been the key to the kind of rapid success and sustainable growth that you've had?
Um, yeah, and actually my first foray into law was insurance defense litigation and a little bit of a general practice. So I actually did litigation for about 3 years in addition to estate planning. Estate planning was a little bit more of a side practice to start. I actually tried three cases, picked juries, appeared before every court, every level of court in North Carolina, argued before the business court, submitted appellate briefs, did a lot of trial law until we had our first child, Mason, who's now he's going to be 11 in October. And so around that time, it became really clear that a trial practice was not going to be very conducive to the work-life balance that everybody talks about, but certainly not being a very steady and consistent and present father. To that point, I'd already had experience with about three trials that we'd worked up and picked a jury, and some we tried to conclusion, others we settled on the courtroom steps. But it was sort of a peek into what life was going to look like, moving forward if I really embraced that reality. Well, luckily, I worked for a law firm that allowed me to pivot a little bit and focus on more transactional law. So one of the partners did real estate and business and estate planning, and they kind of let me really lean into estate planning. And from there, I just leaned further and further. So left that firm and joined another firm that did business and estate planning. So niched down to eliminate real estate. And then once I set up my own firm, this is about going on 7 years ago now. I eliminated business law as like a primary consideration. I used to do like M&A and contract review and employment law and all this kind of stuff. Now we do like business estate planning is what we call it, is business succession, business crisis planning, corporate review and cleanup, just sort of making sure that the business is in good shape if something happens to the owner. But we don't do mergers and acquisitions. We don't market for business law at all. But really, like I've always just kind of had that entrepreneurial burn just to be able to kind of create something unique, and was never truly satisfied with what the market offered, where I had worked previously or what was really available in the market. And so I wanted to be very education first, very, very advisory, but most importantly, approachable. Like our big thing is like we don't wear suits and ties at all. You're more likely to see like, the rolled up sleeves and polos, and that's kind of our vibe here. Very teacher first, very education first. We do a lot of in-person and webinar presentations to just make the concept of estate planning that much more approachable. But we really leaned into the client experience, and we've really dedicated a lot of effort and expansion in terms of like headcount and people on our team to dedicate towards a truly remarkable and unmatched client experience. And part of it is offering, something like the My Life in Wishes Vault as part of the practical elements of planning, right? We're very keen on the practical. Like, how does this actually work? It's not enough to just have some documents with your names on them. We got to know how it works and who's supposed to do what, when, and how.
It's outstanding. Yeah. And, clearly, I mean, I've known this since I've met you. I mean, you're a very personable guy, very friendly, nothing intimidating. I, like you say, no suits and ties. I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
coming in to talk about, the inevitable, my
Yeah.
death, I don't want to talk to somebody wearing a black suit and a tie, right?
Right.
That's for the undertaker and the mortician and that at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
So, and clearly having that kind of a work environment, I mean, that's what just attracts solid team members to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, and in about 6.5 years, going from just me to we got about 40 people on our team now. One of the things that we also developed was Cary Financial Planning, which is a fee-only fiduciary RIA. So we are kind of a modern family office in North Carolina. We do a lot under one roof, but under a true fiduciary banner. So we never have commissions or hidden conflicts of interest or anything like that. But those are all things that were uh, value experiments at first, just to sort of see if we could solve some of the things that I kind of saw being wrong with the market. PlanWell Legal is about 4 years old now. We launched it in April of 21, and it was created to be an opportunity for basic and budget-friendly planning for people who are otherwise traditionally priced out of the attorney market. Often, people who don't have a robust budget for estate planning, in the traditional sense, with more of like a specialized estate planning firm, their opportunity is to do it themselves online, to hope that their bank provides, some form of discounted services, or to work with somebody who doesn't really do estate planning, right? It's sort of the residential real estate guy who's got some templates, that kind of thing. And so we were able to use existing, I guess capacity, excess capacity at the outset, automations and software, and then really trying to kind of truncate the experience to be quicker and lower touch, to be able to provide very simple estate planning services at a much more reasonable rate, starting as low as $550. But it was meant to basically solve a problem that otherwise existed. If they don't work for our firm, our response was, sorry, we can't help you, right? And so we were basically saying, well, we already got a lot of the back end that could be utilized to create this different and meaningful reality. Then we ended up hiring a dedicated attorney for PlanWell that all they do day in and day out is work with PlanWell clients. And then we have a dedicated client service associate as well, that they are on their own. It's kind of a separate economic unit within the firm, that's really, separately branded. We didn't want to ever have any sort of, brand erosion or confusion and sort of saying, well, why would I work with one and not the other, and that kind of thing. And it's been a very successful. It does about $500,000 a year in revenue, and that's
Wow.
otherwise, opportunities that the marketing's already paid for, and people are otherwise just turning away because it's quote unquote not a good fit. Um, but more importantly, we've worked with hundreds of clients to make sure that they've got, legitimate estate plans that are directed at them, North Carolina specific, and we know are going to actually work. They're just not overly verbose and complicated.
That's actually brilliant because you're right. There are a lot of people that say, "Well, I can't afford the full blown trust package
Mhm.
and this." And of course, my argument is, well, the expense is going to be far more for your family when they go to probate if you don't. But
That's right.
whatever the case may be. But instead of turning people away, I mean, you built PlanWell Legal to really show you care about people. You want to make sure North Carolinians, is it,
Yeah.
uh, have their affairs in order and leave a legacy. And you don't want to send them to Costco to buy a will
Right.
package
Yep.
because and the fact that you have a dedicated attorney to make sure that things are done right. I mean, that's remarkable.
Mhm.
And true entrepreneur. So in addition to building Cary Estate Planning and then establishing your RIA, and then PlanWell Legal to help those that don't want to spend the other. I know you spend a lot of time also coaching other attorneys and helping them to grow and scale their practice. And I believe it is known as Elite Planner or something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah. So Elite Planner, I opened as just a Facebook group about a year ago. This was probably, April or May, just a private Facebook group, just sort of sharing the things that I've done, the lessons learned, right? The scars, so that people can kind of learn that without having to run into the brick wall themselves. And sort of demystify what scaling looks like, that it's not some, crazy, untouchable reality that, you know, it was sort of built in response to what I saw as like a proliferation of people who had no business coaching, that they, would open a firm and then they're magically some guru around how to business build. And so, I'd had always to that point really leaned into if you've really done it, then the information that you can give would be so much more valuable than what the others are paying for, right? Because it's actually like learned knowledge rather than like something I read in a book. And so I opened that Facebook group. It's now about 700 law firm owners in total, just to kind of open up the curtain and just sort of talk about the mindset shifts, the things around sales and marketing and hiring and leadership and all the different things that you kind of learn through trial and error or through, consumption of great advice from others, and make that free. Right. So that I would be giving better advice, better information than what most of these gurus were paying for or charging for. In November, after a bunch of people started reaching out and kind of asking for it, we launched a sort of more private coaching opportunity that was paid in nature. And so now we have a private school community that has like templates and SOPs and workflows and job descriptions, scripting for sales meetings, all these different things that can be great resources for different law firm owners that are, starting to grow their firm or just trying to optimize the practice that they already have. But then it goes as high as doing like weekly coaching calls, group coaching calls to actually have one-on-one type feedback over things that they're struggling with. And so that's Elite Planner on Facebook. We also work with law firm owners in marketing through a company called Discovery Legal Marketing that does basically Facebook campaigns or Facebook campaigns for webinars and seminars. So my business is myself and my partner Chris, and we work with about 50 estate planning law firms across the United States to promote and get butts in seats for presentations. So whether it's online or in person or a combination of both.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, you're right. There's so many coaches that are out there that really don't have the real life experience. And I know if I'm an estate planning attorney and I'm trying to grow and scale and I'm just getting started out, I'd like to learn from someone who went from 0 to 40 in 5, 6 years.
Mhm.
You know,
That's
it's
it. Yeah, and
awesome.
it's a lot of it ends up being like people just kind of reading a book and then, parroting what they read rather than any sort of meaningful experience about it. So I wanted to actually have, the ability to be a resource for people and there'd be opportunities for free information out there and then opportunities for more dedicated to them, more unique to them. So that's what I've been working on a lot this year is kind of building out value in that way. But a lot of this, the common through point is I just love doing right by people and making sure that they're squared away. That, I'm kind of an educator first, and that really transcends like every operation that we have, every business that we've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. That early in my career, people used to always come up to me and it's like, "Hey, what are you selling now?" And it's like, my response was always, "I've never sold a thing in my life. I
Yeah.
educate people so that they can make informed decisions, and
Yep.
then they act on those." Well,
That's right.
let's take a little sidebar here because
Sure.
after all, the show is called Estate Planning Nightmares, right?
Hmm.
And so, as an estate planning attorney and as a human being, because we all see them, but can you share like a story or something that you've seen over the last several years, kind of a disaster that occurred and, names redacted, of
Yeah.
course. Uh, and, what happened and what could have prevented it and how others can avoid it.
Yeah, nowadays, about every year we work with about 1,000 families to do estate planning and probate services. So we see obviously a much higher volume of different circumstances than the typical law firm would. But one is, I guess this is more of like a category of issues rather than like a specific singular case, is people who have done the work to engage in the estate planning process with us and then never sign their plan. And to date, we have had, I guess maybe not to date, year to date, it's probably since October, we've had about 6 clients who have drafts in hand, just not motivated to sign and have since died. And the consequence has been unfortunate. Obviously, in some instances, it's between two spouses. A husband has a heart attack, and before we actually put pen to paper. Generally, there's been nothing that we've been, delayed in or like that. It's just that a lot of clients still check the box a little bit once they've got their drafts and kind of decelerate their motivation to actually move forward in the process. And before you know it, it's been 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. And, we're still just sitting on drafts, continuing to reach out. Hey, any other questions, any revisions you want to make? Are you ready to sign your documents into place? And then we'll get word that there's been an accident or a health crisis, or, heaven forbid, we had one that was a single mom whose adult son had Down syndrome, and we had created an estate plan about 3 years ago for her, and she just never signed it. And then one day she was in a car accident with a drunk driver, and she passed away, and her son did not. And so now we have an intestate estate, we have a guardianship administration for the son, and then we have a petition to create a first party special needs trust to essentially receive the money that we were teed up with a third party special needs trust. This preparation and proactive, really meaningful strategy, it all just doesn't do anything unless we actually put pen to paper and sign it in the right way. And so it's a shame because, in each of these instances, they've already paid the money. They've already made the decisions. They've already gone through the hard choices of what do I want to happen, right? What should this look like when I'm gone? We just didn't ever culminate it. And so that is now, I guess, 5 or 6 different times in the last about 9 months. And it's,
Wow.
we're there for them, right? It's not one of these sort of, so sorry you didn't take our advice, good luck with life thing. It's, we're there for our clients in every instance of crisis, whether they have signed their documents or not. Throughout the process, we're always, providing ongoing advice and following up and really prompting. I think a lot of firms probably give up after a certain period of time, but we're continuing to touch and that kind of thing. But didn't get it done. And so now they're showing them front row seats to why we do planning and tweaking what's necessary, but some of it is fixing big problems like this example with the intestate estate. Not an ideal outcome.
Wow.
Nothing wrong with the
No,
documents, just never signed them.
no, and thankfully, that number, five or so over 9 months, you're doing 1,000 estate plan. It's a small percentage, and
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. A lot of people, it's always like, all right, I feel now I've got a little peace of mind. All we got to do is get these signed, but I've got time, and I always hate when people say I have time because I don't know if I'll wake up tomorrow morning. I hope I
That's it.
do, but
But surely nothing's going to happen tomorrow, of course. Right.
right.
That's right.
And to make that kind of an investment and
Mhm.
have it paid and just not sign it. And now the process is probably costing 10 times the amount to go
It's not
through
cheap. Yeah, it's
probate.
and that's the thing is like you kind of see this too in the, we'll routinely meet with people who have like done their own will. They'll print a template, Law Depot, whatever, and they'll come in with like shame, almost embarrassed that they did that as a solution in the interim. And there's nothing inherently wrong with those, but it's the same kind of issue when we've done the planning and it just didn't get signed. There's like this, I should have followed through. We should have had this done already. Just spoke with somebody today where the wife passed away, has farmland in Indiana in her own name, and it's going to have to go through probate, right? We got to open it here in North Carolina and do an ancillary in Indiana. And it's just an unfortunate outcome that we literally teed up the plan to avoid, and it just didn't get done. This was someone that engaged last summer, and now, the wife passed away a couple weeks ago. And so it's unfortunate, right? And who knows how many people who have yet to engage in the planning process, right? Who have never actually scheduled that meeting or engaged to have the plan created. The common survey results that we hear is that only about 30% of people have an up-to-date estate plan. Well, the other 70 are going through these crises for lack of doing anything, right? And so that's kind of our goal with Cary Estate Planning with PlanWell is to put a meaningful dent into that number, is to really make sure that come hell or high water, people are meaningfully protected, that they've got legitimate planning in place, as opposed to doing the wrong thing because they didn't know better or doing nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the numbers are staggering when you look at, the statistics like less than 50% even have a will
Mhm.
that are out there. And, as I always say, and, I don't think it gets old. It's like, number one, if you don't have any kind of an estate plan, get one,
Yeah.
right? If you do have an estate plan, be sure you review it with your attorney every couple of years because life changes and the documents should change with it. And if you've invested and gotten your estate plan done and you've already paid for it, this is a new one that I'm just adding. Be sure you go through that last step
Yeah.
and sign it. Okay.
Signed, sealed, delivered. That's right.
Absolutely. Do you do so for your signings? And so for Cary Estate Planning, if someone comes in, they do the estate plan. For signings, do you do them all in house? Do you utilize mobile notaries to help out if there's, you know, issues with getting to the office or those kind of things?
Yeah, our preference is to control the process, and we do most of the signings in-house, but where there's need, where people can't, make it to our offices, we try to engage mobile notaries. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for someone that if I do something on PlanWell Legal,
Mhm.
and so that's been done online.
Mhm.
When I get the documents, then do I have to then go get those notarized or witnessed? I'm not sure. Different states have different rules on.
Yeah, so a signing meeting is an a la carte add-on for PlanWell. So PlanWell is a virtual law firm, so it's not like a self-service digital platform. It's that
Okay.
the process is online from like the meeting perspective, and it usually only takes about a week to actually turn around the actual documents and approve them. Versus traditional estate planning will be more comprehensive design meetings, review meetings, that kind of stuff, more hand-holding, more higher touch. PlanWell doesn't default to include a signing meeting, but it can be hosted at the Cary Estate Planning office. But if they choose to, they can go, work with it like a UPS store, their bank, or retain their own mobile notary as well. And PlanWell is a little bit more statewide. It's more feasible for people in like Charlotte and Greensboro and Asheville and that kind of stuff than working with Cary Estate Planning.
Yeah, I like that. In fact, I'm going to have to look more into it. I encourage people too, if you're in North Carolina
Mhm.
and you're listening to this and you've not done anything yet, I
Mhm.
mean, calling Paul or someone on his team is going to be a great move. But
Mhm.
if you just want to check things out, go to PlanWell Legal because it and Paul just clarified this for me. So thank you. It's not like this, online tool that I use or download.
Mhm. Nope.
I'm talking to you just like we're talking here via
Yeah.
Zoom, and we get things done. So
Yeah, you're still
and
doing like a questionnaire. There's a 30-minute video consultation. They're still drafting documents as PDFs and sending them for client review. It's just much less touch, much more basic in the outcomes. We're not doing tax planning. We're not doing super complicated conditionals. Like we'll jokingly kind of compare it to prime rib versus hamburgers. Like the hamburger modification is going to be, do you want cheese or not? It's not going to be highly customized like in a Cary State Planning estate plan would be.
awesome. Yeah. But if you're hungry, either one
That's it.
will
That's right.
satiate, right?
That's exactly right.
Awesome. Hey, well, let's touch on a little bit of personal perspective
Sure.
first of all. I mean, you're a husband, you're a dad.
Mhm.
Um, how do you find time to
Yeah.
do all this stuff?
Yeah. I have the team that I have because I wanted to maintain some normalcy in my schedule. So this year, 2025, is really pivoting more into a de-leveraged, de-bottlenecked reality where I'm trying to step out of different functions of the firm and allow other leaders to kind of take over or other attorneys to pick up more of the consultation, volume. And so, but I typically am still like I drop my kids off at school every morning. They have kind of early, beginning and end times. So my wife picks them up or they take the bus home. But I'm in carpool 7:15 every morning with the kids. My wife picks them up usually 2:20 in the afternoon. And then we just recently brought on another team member to do like evening seminars so that I don't have to do them anymore. But I used to coach my kids' soccer teams. I try to be at their practices and those sort of things as much as I can. But my wife and I have always kind of had the understanding that she would be the more flexible parent if there were, as an emergency at school. She works from home, whereas I'll have meetings until like 5 o'clock on most days. So, but it's not. I don't burn the ends, burn the candle at both ends, or work on the weekends or like that. Still take plenty of vacation. We're going to Asheville next week for all of Fourth of July week. We were in the Bahamas in April. Try to do like one meaningful vacation every quarter while they're tracked out. And but yeah, they're 10 and 8 now. They're just finishing up fourth and second grade.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I know your firm is big, and you do a lot in the community with sponsorships,
Mhm.
philanthropy. Are there any one or two that are near and dear to your heart?
Yeah, so we just did the Pride game for the NC Courage women's soccer team. So the NC Courage is it's the NWSL, so it's the top tier of women's soccer in the world. And we just so happen to have a pro team in our backyard. But my firm sponsored the Pride game, which was this past Saturday. And so we were the title sponsors. We, delivered the game ball at the beginning. The things that we do with NCFC and NC Courage have always been sort of near and dear because I'm a soccer kid through and through. Um, but what probably gets the most laughs is the RDU airport baggage claim ads because it's my face and we're talking about like next time you fly get peace of mind, that kind of thing. And so it's always this like kind of tongue-in-cheek joke whenever anybody lands into RDU, they send me a picture of myself. But those are some of the branding endeavors or exercises that we've done locally that have been, those are 2 or 3 years in the making now.
That's awesome. And hey, I'm a fellow soccer guy too. I grew up in New Jersey and lived in New England, and
But the
I was
revolution.
a keeper from 6 years old all through high school, and a lot of fun,
That
a
was
lot of
great.
fun. Great sport. Well, look, if you could offer one piece of advice to families listening today who haven't yet started their planning, what would it be?
Estate planning is so much easier than it seems. It's just finding the right educator and advisor. Don't go on Google and start concluding that you know everything. It's kind of like WebMD, just leads you down the wrong channel. And don't take advice from people on Instagram and TikTok. I
Oh,
was
God.
watching videos this morning that just maybe almost pull my hair out. So,
Yeah.
but it's a lot easier. I know a lot of people don't want to have the conversation because it's not comfortable. It doesn't make you feel good. But there is nothing better than watching people leave our office after they sign their plan. I mean, it's just that breath of fresh air, that sigh of relief, that peace of mind. It's palpable. Like you can see it. It's very tangible.
Yeah. So for the attorneys that are listening,
Mhm.
what's the one thing that they could do this week to level up how they serve their clients?
They can join the Elite Planner Facebook group to learn a little bit more about what we've been up to and my perspective and philosophy on things. You can go to eliteplanner.com and look at the different service offerings we have for more focused attention. But I mean, words of wisdom or piece of advice is that sometimes you got to get into bigger rooms. You got to be surrounded by people who have done more to understand what's possible. I think a lot of people their bubble's too small. And so they just accept what they have because they don't know any better instead of putting themselves in a position to attain what they truly want, whether that is monetary or lifestyle or impact or team growth. A lot of our growth has been not for my purposes, but to allow people who have been with us for so long to be able to continue to grow and not be bottlenecked as paralegals and admin staff and that kind of thing. It's been a mutually beneficial thing. And if I would have, if you actually, it's a funny exercise. The Maximum Lawyer podcast actually interviewed me on the day that I opened Cary Estate Planning back in October of 2018. And then they interviewed me again July of last year. And the perspective difference, they're two different people, just totally different people. And it's just the difference is time and awareness of what's possible, what I knew at the time versus what I knew now. And I think a lot of that is just by getting into bigger rooms and being exposed to what's possible, to actually choose what I wanted instead of just accepting what I had.
Absolutely. Great advice. And then finally, how can listeners connect with you or learn more about Cary Estate Planning and all your other ventures?
Yeah, a great first step is always going to be CaryEstatePlanning.com. Cary is spelled Cary, estateplanning.com. And that's kind of the home base for all things planning. That's financial. It ultimately can lead to PlanWell if it's a good fit. And then our Facebook page, Instagram, Cary Estate Planning.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you're in North Carolina, reach out to the team at
Mhm.
Cary Estate Planning or go to CaryEstatePlanning.com, check out PlanWell.legal.
Mhm.
If you're an estate planning attorney, you're looking for ideas, strategies, guidance on further expanding and scaling your practice,
Mhm.
go check out Elite Planner. And I've included, to make things easy, all of Paul's contact information below with the links that's included, as well as Paul's LinkedIn page, where he provides great content applicable to anyone that's out there. So, Paul, thank you so much for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your journey with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And to you, our listeners, if you've received some value from this, make sure to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control of your legacy now. Remember, your life is your legacy. So plan ahead and make it a great day.